In this video, we're going to rank all the defenders in Rainbow Six Siege. First, we have Alibi, and while I like Alibi's gun a lot, her gadget just isn't very helpful. Like the Alibi clones, while yes, they do ping the enemy, how often are you falling for that? And especially as you get into higher ranks, it's just worse and worse as you go. So the fact that she doesn't really have any gadgets to really help out the team, like unless someone shoots it and gets pinged, but then they also have to be in a position where you can play off that ping. So it happens quite rarely that they actually get pinged and that you can actually do something about it versus someone playing like Valk and putting the cam in a good position that your team can play off of. Like, it's just not going to be that great. So while her gun is good, pretty much everything else about her kind of sucks. So she's going to go into D tier. Next we have a Rooney, and a Rooney is quite good. I like her DMR, and then you have the Rooney as well. So that's kind of nice, and her gates are quite helpful. They're kind of easy to deal with because you can throw anything through them, but they recharge pretty quickly. They can really help kind of slow down a push like that. And a lot of people are dumb and they throw something through it and then it like starts going away and then they run through it anyway. So that's kind of nice. But as you get into higher ranks, things like that doesn't happen as often. More than it should though. People not know how it works. I don't know. But she's a good operator. The punchability is nice. Being able to make rotates, head holes, open hatches easily, things like that. And then the DMR or the Rona, whichever one you want to play, is a great choice. So she's gonna go into A tier. Next we have Azami. And I know Azami recently got a nerf and she's maybe not as good as she once was. She's still going into S tier for me. The core of her ability hasn't changed. You just can shoot it now, but you have to shoot it so many times. And if you're playing your zombies right, most of the time they're in a position where you can play off of them and use them to get kills. One-way angles, things like that. So most of the time they don't have the opportunity to dump a mag and a half into your zombie before you do something about it. So it really doesn't hurt her that bad. I like the change. It makes it a little bit more tolerable as an attacker, but it's not a very big difference. And it's honestly quite rare that you completely break one by shooting it. So she's still S tier. I love her, my favorite defender, and I think the best defender in the game. The shotgun, her 9mm, they're both pretty decent. Play what you want. Impact nades, she's just a really good operator, so she's gonna go into S tier. Next we have Frost, and I really like Frost's gun. I know the Frost mats kind of got nerfed by being able to pick yourself up now, but it does put the person who fell on them at an extreme disadvantage with the blood trail and not being able to sprint and being super loud. While it's not as good as it was, to be fair, it's not that big of a nerf to where I think she's terrible, and her gun's pretty awesome, especially with an ACOG. So I think she's gonna go into B tier. Also one of the few operators that still has the deployable shield. So she's gonna go into B tier for me. Not like great or anything amazing, but not really a bad choice. She's gonna go into B tier. Next we have Tachanka, and Tachanka is just really disappointing because I can see what he should be. He should be kind of like a smoke counterpart, but his fire just doesn't do enough damage, and having to put your gun away to take out a launcher is always terrible. We know this. They keep doing it, but we know it's terrible. They do it with Grim, they do it with Ash and Zofia and all these people. It's always going to put you at an extreme disadvantage, especially with Tachanka, where the second you take it out, and the attackers will try to rush you, and they can rush straight through your fire. That's the biggest problem, is you're at a disadvantage without having your gun, and they can run right through the fire because it just doesn't do enough damage to really hinder them. Either they need to up the damage or make it so you can't sprint through it or something like that. But for now, while I like his turret and it's fun, and it creates some kind of unique opportunities that other guns can't do, because you can, it's kind of like a buck on defense in a sense, where you can shoot something open and then shoot long range immediately. It's not enough to make him actually good or viable, so he's gonna go into D tier as well. Next up I have Bandit. Pretty simple. MP7's a decent gun. Wall denial, solid pick. Nitro cell, he's kind of been the same throughout this throughout the lifespan of Siege. Bandit tricking is always going to be a thing and quite prevalent, so he's going to go into A tier. Now we have Castle, and I really love Castle. His Castle barricades create a lot of flexibility and different ways to play sites, and just kind of stopping that line of sight and slowing down the attackers and kind of pushing them and funneling them into the way you want them to push is really helpful. On top of having a solid gun with an ACOG, proximity alarms, super shorty, like he kind of has a lot going for him, so that's going to put him into upper A tier for me. Next we have Clash, and I know Clash is kind of a highly debated / hated operator. I don't think she's great by any means, but she does have her moments, and especially on certain sites where there's not a lot of vulnerabilities, for a lot of different ways for them to push, like Oregon basement, she can be really strong, things like that. So she can go into C tier, not terrible, but not great. She's not going to get a bunch of kills. Like if your team dies out, you're not very helpful, but you can really help your team get a lot of kills and waste a ton of time. And most people don't really know how to deal with a Clash, so It makes her quite good. So she's gonna go into C tier for me just because she's not necessarily great on her own. So ranking her on her own is the struggle, right? It's more the team dynamic with her. So she's gonna go to C tier. She has her moments, but not playable on every site or anything like that. So next we have Doc, and I like Doc a lot. You have an MP5 with an ACOG, and you can heal your teammates significantly. You can pick up a down teammate and he will have full health. You can stim yourself, you can overstim, and then you have MP5 ACOG and a bailiff, so you can actually help the site setup. Pretty good. I'm gonna put him just above Frost, I think, even though Frost can also help with site setup. And both our guns are good in kind of their own ways, but Frost Mat, healing teammates, I'm gonna say healing teammates is a little better. But in a one-shot headshot game, it's not like amazing or anything. So he's gonna go into upper B tier. Then we have Ella. Ella's another just kind of solid trap operator with a pretty decent gun, deployable shield, kind of similar to Frost. I like Frost's gun just a little bit more because of the damage and the ACOG and the laser beam recoil, but both are pretty decent, very similar. Gonna go into B tier. Then we have Goyo. Now Goyo is a trap operator, but he fits more along the lines of what Smoke does, and he can be really helpful in late rounds because if Smoke dies, it does nothing. If Goyo dies, it's fine. Your teammates can use it too. And if you put it on doorways, especially basement on bank, you put it on that main, default plant doorway, it can really waste a bunch of time. I think my stack will put 2 or 3 there. You can just run the timeout doing that. And so he's really good. And then he has what I think is literally the best gun on defense with an ACOG. So he's gonna go into S tier just for all of those those combined factors, not just one individual thing, I guess. Then we have Jaeger. I like Jaeger a lot. His gun's very solid, not super flashy or amazing or anything. The ADS speed is kind of slow and you don't have an ACOG or anything, but I find his ADS is to be much better than my discs, just because my discs have to charge up over time, and then they only have one use, and then they blow up because most of the time someone's throwing a grenade or an ash charge or something. So I'm gonna say he's in A tier. I like him. I wish his gun was a little better, but overall very solid operator. Next we have Capcan. Again, another trap operator. I like Capcan a lot though. I find that he gets more kills than with his gadget, I'll say, than some of the other trap operators. You can really hide them, and if you know how to play him, they can be pretty sneaky, especially on a lot of maps where you don't think it's a doorway, it's a hallway, like on Border, and you can sneak him on there. So he's gotten tons of kills in my stack, and if you're having a bad game, he's a great operator to play, just to kind of try to help the team out in that regard. If there isn't, kind of wall denial or something else the team needs, he's a great pick for that. So he's gonna go into upper B tier. I like him over these other trap operators. Then we have Maestro. Maestro got a third camera, so that's super helpful, and his LMG is pretty good. He's got a bailiff, pretty solid, but while I like his gun a lot, his cameras can be kind of hit or miss on how helpful they are. They can be kind of easy to deal with, Sledge, punching them, shooting them, Brava, Gone 6, there's kind of a lot of things I can deal with them. So just because of that reason, I'm gonna put him into B tier, and I think just above Ella, but below Frost and Capcan, just because I think they're a little bit stronger. And, well, maybe not. I don't know. I'm gonna put Maestro just above Frost, even though I like Frost's gun a little more. The LMG is really good, and you can also do site setup just like Frost can. So the Maestro turrets, if they weren't so easy to deal with, he would be a lot higher. But they're just a little bit too easy to take out, so he's gonna go into B tier. Then we have Melusi. Melusi is better because she has an ACOG, but that's kind of the only thing helping her. I don't like her gadget very much. I think Fenrir does exactly what she does, but much better. And I just don't like how easy her gadget is to deal with. Anyone can shoot it when you walk into it, and you don't even have to be that far in it. The second it activates, you just shoot it. So you really have to be in a position to play off of your Melusis to actually have them be helpful in any way. Now, MP5 ACOG is always pretty solid, but other than that, she's not that great. So she's gonna go into C tier. I'm gonna put her just below Clash. I know people are playing her a lot more now that she has an ACOG, but I still am not a big fan. She's a 1-speed. Gadget's kind of mid. Honestly, I'd rather have a Clash in some situations than a Melusi. It's gonna slow them down so much more than she is. Clash is just way better at wasting time than a Malusi gadget is. Malusi gadget will maybe waste like 5 seconds because they'll shoot it right away. I know you can play off it, I know it can help get you kills, but there's other operators who do that, and I think do it better, like Ella or Fenrir, or like where you can play off of their gadget specifically to help you get kills. So it isn't going to lower C tier for me. Then we have Mute. Mute's S tier. Mute's kind of been the same for a really long time. Shotgun, SMG11, great. If you want to play the MP5K, sure, go ahead, it's good. But his gadget just counters so many things in the game, like almost everything. Anything tech-based. That's a lot of things, by the way. So he counters a lot. So he's really good. He's gonna go into S tier. I'm gonna put him as the second best defender. I already know. I know we haven't gone through the other operators, but I already know Azami's gonna be 1 and Mute's gonna be 2. They're amazing. You can play them literally every site, every single round, and they will always be good. They have Oryx. Oryx is the worst defender. He does nothing. He has a T5, which is cool, but he does nothing. F tier, and I want to talk about it. Pulse. Pulse is really good. I'm gonna put Pulse into upper A tier. I like Pulse a lot. I think, you know, you can either play the shotgun or the both are fine, depending on kind of how you plan on playing him. And then obviously he's like one of the strongest operators from playing below, right, on defense. You can play vertical against the attackers, which attackers are usually going to try to take in their favor. And usually it is in the attacker's favor, unless you have a Pulse where you can play Nitro, you can shotgun from below, things like that. So there's so many good sites where he's really good. And then you can play him more than just playing him below, and so much intel you can give your teammates for them to play off of. So he's just really good. He's gonna go into upper A tier. Then we got Cav, and Cav is the most hit or miss operator in the entire game. Either you can do absolutely nothing to contribute to your team, not a single thing. You're not really helping the site setup. You're usually just running off and kind of hiding so they don't know that you have a Cav. And if you don't get any kills or interrogations, you did nothing for your team. At least with a Rook or a Bandit or Cade, like you can, even if you do nothing else in the round, at least your gadget can help out a little bit, or like Goyo or something. So I like Goyo as kind of the leading frag op on defense because he can help his team even when he's dead, so it makes him a little more useful in that way. But if you get an interrogation as Cav, it could be one of the quickest like single-handed win kind of plays that you can do. And her silence step is quite good and allows for a lot of flank play. So I'm gonna put her into low C tier, and I think that's exactly where she belongs, because some rounds she's an F and some rounds she's an A, right? Like it's just very hit or miss, like depending on if you can get an interrogation or not is really what matters. So I'm gonna go into low C tier just because you're not really helping out the team in very many ways, but the highs are high. Next up we have Echo, and I really like Echo. Obviously you have the 2 drones, which I think are quite strong, and people often forget that they're drones, not stationary cameras. It's something I could be better at as well, but you can drone teammates, you can help your flank, do things like that, or you can roam yourself because he's not slow anymore, and a lot of people forget that too, that he's a 2-speed. Impact nades, like he kind of has a lot of versatility. He can be quite a good roamer, so, or you can play him in sight as an anchor. He can do that too and help your teammates with his drones, or you can try to stop a plant or something like that. So I think a lot of people think of him as like he stops people from planting, and that's what he does, but he can do a lot more than that. So he is gonna go into upper B tier. Then we have Cade. Pretty simple, gonna go right next to Bandit. I'm gonna put him just below. Obviously sometimes a Cade is better, sometimes a Bandit's better. It depends on basically if you need to Bandit trick or not. Bandit tricking is really strong, and that's why I'm gonna give a slight edge to Bandit, but Cade can get hatches and Bandit can't, so like obviously one is good sometimes and the other is better the other time. Pretty much, you know, interchangeable depending on the kind of strat you're running. So he's gonna go in A tier. Then we have Legion, and Legion's probably the best trap operator. He probably has the best gun out of all the trap operators. The T5 is amazing, and it gives you a lot of intel, especially if you're roaming or trying to kind of like a lurk, quote unquote. Like you're holding down an area and you can put it on lots of doorways. Obviously you know how to place it. Don't just place it in the doorway, place it around the corner on the side, so when they walk through they don't see it as easily. Very good. Can help with site setup with his super shorty. Very solid overall. And in fact Nate's like he's kind of got a lot of things going for him, so he's gonna go into the lowest part of A tier just because he is a trap operator, but there's so many good things about him. So then we have Mira. Mira can be really strong if it doesn't get destroyed, but there's quite a few ways to destroy it. Obviously you can punch it, which makes it kind of limited in some of the places you can put it, or you can Ash Charge it, or Kali, or Twitch. So there's kind of quite a few ways to deal with it, but as long as you're able to watch it and keep that Mira intact, it's really strong. So I'm gonna put her into the top of B tier just because she can be kind of easy to deal with, or you can go below and like open the floor or something like that, and then she can't stand on her Mira anymore. So there's definitely like there's ways around her Mira, but if they're in a situation where you can't get the Mira is really strong. So it gives the defenders a huge advantage. So she's gonna go into upper B tier. Now we have Mozzie, and Mozzie has had quite a fall from grace. While I like his ability when you get drones and when you use them, literally your gadget is dependent on what the attackers do. If you don't get any drones, you haven't done much. nothing really. I mean, you can kind of limit where attacker drones move if you place them in the right places, but Mute can do that so much better and do so many other things. And the Roni doesn't have any zoom optic anymore, and obviously it has a small mag. Now it has a really good fire rate, so it's still like not terrible by any means. And the Commando's pretty good too if you like that, but just his gadget is super dependent on what the attackers do, and I don't like that very much. Why wouldn't you just play Valk instead if you really want cameras or something like that? Or if you want a drone, play Echo, and then your drones actually do more than just see. They can actually disorient the attackers. So I'm gonna put him into D tier. I'm just not a fan anymore. Obviously he used to be one of the elite frag operators, but those days are gone, at least for now. So gonna go into D tier. Then we have Tubarao. Tubarao I was quite excited for when he first came out. I thought it was a really interesting concept, and I think he's good. He's all right. I don't know. It kind of hinders someone like bandit tricking more than help a lot of the time, and it's nice to delay time. He's got a DMR that's pretty decent, but that's kind of it. So while I like him, I don't love him. He's going to go into very upper C tier. Better than those other ops, but I don't think he's on the same level as like an Echo or something like that. I feel like they're much more helpful to kind of the round. I know it has its moments where you can really slow down them breaching, and that can really, anything that can waste like a bunch of time, like a Tubarao can, is usually pretty helpful, but I just think there's better ways to do that, and I just don't like, it's a little risky with the bandit trick or the Cade. Like sometimes it works, and sometimes, you know, if you're not placing it right or you're not synced up with your bandit, especially if you don't have a stack, like it's just not the same. So he's gonna go into upper C tier. Then we have Rook. Rook's gonna also go into C tier. I'm gonna put him just below Clash, I think. Obviously you have an MP5 or P90, which are great, but the Rook armors, I mean, this is highly debated because it's a one-shot headshot game, right? So if you get headshot, it does nothing for you. Absolutely nothing. If you get body shot or downed, it's really helpful because now you can pick yourself up when you're downed, and that's a really cool ability, so that makes him better. I think makes him kind of playable, but in the game with one-shot headshots, and that's how a lot of gunfights are kind of ending, especially like even if someone downs you, most of the time they're able to finish the kill. So it doesn't happen very often where you're able to actually res yourself, but it does happen enough to be helpful, so he's gonna go into C tier. Nothing that special. Then we have Smoke. Smoke is really good. Smoke is one of the best like time-wasting plant denial operators there is. He hasn't changed much, except for them getting rid of his deployable shield, which did hurt him because he was kind of the go-to deployable shield operator, but other than that, he's pretty much the same as he's always been. I'm gonna put him into A tier, just below Castle and Pulse. Then we have Solus. Solus is gonna go up to S tier, just above Goyo, just because I like her gadget more. Obviously, I like Goyo's gun more, but the P90 is not bad by any means, and her gadget's really strong. I know they're gonna be hurting it a little bit. They're gonna nerf it in a couple different ways, which will make her worse, but right now, she's S tier still, and she might still be S tier. We'll see how it plays when they change it. Next, we have Thorn. Thorn is probably one of the worst trap operators. It just deploys so slow, and yes, it can force them out of corners and things like that, so it's not like terrible. It's not like a complete waste. There's so many better trap operators. Like Thorn compared to like Legion is just not even, they're not even on the same level. And with her gun not having any kind of zoom optic anymore, it's nothing that special compared to other guns. So she's gonna go into D tier. Not a big fan of her anymore. I did like playing her as one of kind of my main defensive frag ops, but she's just not that. So she's gonna go into D tier. We have Thunderbird. I don't like Thunderbird's spear that much. It is kind of nice having an AR on defense, but there's so many other guns that I'd prefer to play. And her healing, while she can heal after she's dead, which is nice, it's just not that much health in one go. And the defenders have to go to where you set up your Konas, so it can be kind of difficult as a defender sometimes to get the heal. So I'm gonna put her into C tier. I think Doc is just better than Thunderbird. Better just below Clash there. I just think the Kona stations are just not as helpful as Doc's stim. So when you have an operator who's clearly better, who I think has a better gun, can help with site setup more because of the bailiff, and has a better ability in the same field that you're in, why play Thunderbird? It's not necessarily a bad op, just there's better one out there. Then we have Valk. Valk's really good. Cameras are awesome. Can't really go wrong with that. I'm gonna put Valk just above Smoke, I think, or yeah, just above Smoke. The intel can be just super, super helpful. And being able to nitro trick through the floor with your own Valcam is just awesome. You can just, that's a strat. You can do all yourself if you're solo queuing, if you have a stack, like, and it's a free kill. It's a zero risk kill. So sometimes you won't get a kill. Sometimes they won't step over where you place your nitro, or, you know, they take it out in some way, or you have to place it later in the round or something like that. But there's zero risk with it. And anytime you get a kill for zero risk, is pretty awesome. So, and then on top of that, like Capcan, you can get a kill with 0 risk, but that's all you're doing is hoping for a kill. Valk, you can get a kill with 0 risk, and you give so much intel to your teammates and yourself. She's just better in that regard, so she's gonna go into upper A tier. Then we have Vigil. Vigil's cool because he counters Deimos, but that's about it. I like the K1A a lot, so I'm gonna put him into the lowest of C tier. Obviously, he's a nice roamer, but I don't love him that much. The K1A is great, but I just don't love his ability, so he's not helping the team out in any way. It's the same as Cav, is if you're not getting kills or not doing anything, and the highs aren't necessarily as high. Like Cav can get 1 kill, and as long as it's an interrogation, it's really helpful. If Vigil gets 1 kill, it's a net 0. If they get 1 kill and die, depending on how much time they wasted, it's not that helpful. If he wasted a bunch of time, then sure. He can have his moments, but overall not a big fan. Then we have Wamai. I like Wamai a lot. I really like the MP5K with an ACOG. I think it's one of my favorite guns with the new sight update, but the Y discs are just objectively not as good as Jaeger's. It's nice because you can put them anywhere and you're not limited in that regard, but the charge up time and not being able to set up at the beginning of the round to set up everything you need, especially as, you know, they're pushing in this meta quite quickly, it's just not as helpful. And only being able to get one thing, so you just kind of have to hope that they push where you placed it, because you're not going to be able to place it on everything. I'm going to put him literally just below Jaeger, and the gun is better, and he has impact nades, and there's a lot of things I love about him, and I play him a lot. Gadget's just slightly worse, and so he's going to go just below Jaeger for that reason. Then we have Warden. What a fall from grace. I'm going to put him into D tier. While I still like the MPX, obviously having no zoom optic is kind of terrible. Being a 1 speed, and Gadget's so unless they're like using smokes or playing Ying, it's really not that helpful. So he's going to go into D tier. And to round out this list, we have Fenrir, who I love. Fenrir is so much fun. The MP7 is obviously a solid gun, but what really makes Fenrir shine is his gadget. It is awesome. Like, there is nothing worse as an attacker than literally not being able to see because you walked somewhere. And if you didn't know that his gadget was there, it will catch you off guard so bad, and it can be a free kill for Fenrir so easily. So I love him very much. He has so many of the actual gadgets as well, and being able to just move and swap which one's active is so easy. Obviously it takes some thought and you have to really be prepared for that, but he can give so much intel and lead to just free kills. So he's gonna go into S tier. I'm gonna put him just below Mute there. But that rounds out my list. Obviously we have one F tier in Oryx because he's trash, but other than that we have a lot of solid operators. I think, you know, defense is quite balanced in that way. There's a lot of pretty good operators, not a lot of like terrible choices. I think S tier, obviously those are going to be good just every single time. A tier is good almost every time, but it's a little more situational. B tier, there's probably some caveat on why they're not as great as some other things. C tier, they probably do something that someone else does but worse. Thunderbird, Rook, Malusi, so on. D tier, there's just something about them. Honestly, pretty much everyone in D tier, it's their gadget. It's just not helpful enough to your team or yourself even. Like, it's just not that great. So they're all on D tier, and Oryx does nothing. But let me know what you think down below. Is this list terrible? Do you disagree with everything? Or did I get it right this time? Let me know. But thank you for watching.